Welcome to Permission to Shine, the space where high-achieving women like you come to peel back the layers, overcome what's been holding you back, and rise into your most authentic, powerful self. I'm your host, Sharice Bisram, inner power activation leader and intuitive healer, and a woman who knows what it means to look like she's thriving on the outside, also while feeling disconnected on the inside. This podcast is here to remind you, you didn't come here to just perform, you came here to lead with your soul. Your obstacles, they're invitations to expand. And your power, it was never outside of you. It's been waiting within you all along. Each week we'll dive into honest conversations, healing insight and soul-led strategies to help you stop self-sabotaging, reclaim your light and lead your life, your business and your relationships from deep-rooted truth. So if you're ready to rise with grace, softness and fire, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, so I'm so excited today to introduce to you a guest I've known actually since probably the beginning of my business, and she's gone from strength to strength and she's always full of so much knowledge. And that's one, because obviously she's a business coach, but also she's very passionate and teaches the mind, body and soul connection and all of these wonderful things that I feel like do tie in together. And we've done a couple of lives together and things like that. And I was thinking, we haven't done a podcast. I was like, I need to get her on the podcast because she's going to be able to help you gain the tools and the clarity to move into this next year in the best health, I think, for yourself. And also, if you do have a business, there'll be little sort of cues in there as well to support you in that as well. So thank you so much for joining me, Emma.
Thank you. It's lovely to finally be here. Absolutely love your podcast. So it's just great to, join you and have a chat. So yeah, let's see where it goes, I guess.
Yeah, amazing. And do you want to kind of give like more of an introduction to what it is you do and why you do it?
Yeah. So I'm a business coach for health, fitness, wellness professionals. So people that are looking to set up gyms, run studios, run retreats, set up wellness centers. That's my thing. That's what I specialize in on the business front because that's my background. I also run a mind and body transformation program as well, which I'm actually leaning more into at the moment. So my background originally was I worked in corporate. I worked for KPMG accountancy firm for 10 years. And even now, when I say it, it almost makes me laugh because I think I don't know how I did it. It was just kind of one of those things, I guess. I started in that corporate world from a young age. It was a good job, it paid well, and I ended up just sort of sticking to it. But I did so I've always done my fitness on the side. So when I was in corporate, I was doing all my fitness qualifications so that I could eventually, I had plans of maybe open my own gym, open my own center, or somehow get into the fitness industry because that really was my passion. And that was like, it was always calling me. So, and corporate did not light me up one single bit. It was just a good job. So I eventually, after 10 years, made that decision that I was going to take a huge pay cut and I was going to get into the fitness industry and I just knew that I would make it work. So I was teaching classes, all different types of classes. And I had this opportunity. There was a local gym that opened up near me, and it was a small facility. And I got chatting to the owner. I started running his timetable for him because it was a bit sporadic all over the place. And I was like, I've got a project management background, used to run multi-million pound projects in corporate. This is what I can do for you. So I started, just getting my foot in the door in the right way. And I was still a little bit like, wasn't sure what this business for me could possibly look like in that industry. And then what happened was this local gym was looking to grow and get funding. And so I basically said, look, this is what I can do for you. I can help you grow your business. I'll come on board. And we put a plan together. And basically I grew that business from 0 to 7 sites over sort of 12 years that I was there. I ran the business. It was a highly successful business. We ran like 24-hour gyms, thousands of members per site. Um, and on top of that, I was also competing as a professional bodybuilder, spent a few years competing and also running kind of like my own personal training and wellness stuff on the side. So the gyms then sold, managed to sell them. And then I found myself in this really weird space because all of a sudden I'd gone from, running corporate, which was, busy, to then jumping into the fitness industry to scaling this gym company, but also running my own personal training, coaching, studied NLP, was competing in bodybuilding. So I'd literally just spent, however many years, the last 20 years, go, 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 literally. And then all of a sudden the gym sold and I just had this time um, to actually think. And I know from the work that I've done and the journey that I've been on like personal development and the things that I coach people on, how important it is to have that almost like downtime or support your nervous system so you're not in fight and flight all the time. However, I always thought that I was doing that until I realized I wasn't. And I had this like months to really, I guess, kind of look at myself. So I'd naturally moved into business coaching because obviously running the gyms, I used to get a lot of personal trainers ask me for help. And obviously, I used to support a lot of personal trainers in that environment. So I ended up creating my own business coaching and mentoring business, where I was supporting these individuals in that industry, which I really enjoyed doing. But what I was also finding in this time that I had off is this pull to support women in a physical sense, so more in like not just personal training. So I was finding like all of my ex-clients, I stay in contact with, we're all friends. They know that they can always call on me and ask for support, help, whatever it is, that they need. I'd bump into them in a coffee shop, we'll have a chat, that's the kind of community I create with my clients. And what I found is because I wasn't running the gyms, I wasn't helping people and supporting people in that environment. I actually missed it. And I was just getting this big pull. And I know, like, I think I phoned you and I was saying, like, this is kind of what's happening. And I'm just going to go with it for once rather than let's get a strategy together. Let's do this, let's do that. It was more just like, I'm going to sit with this thought process and see where it leads. And it just kept growing. And the more people that I talked to about this, um it isn't, I don't want to say a program, but this sort of area that I wanted to step into more, it just, everyone that I was saying, what about this, what about that, and I'll go over in a bit more sort of detail as to what my thought process was. But initially the people that I was speaking to were like, you've got to go with that. And I think I even when I spoke to you about it, Sharice, I think you were really good actually, because I looked at it on a different way because you've got a very great outlook on things. And you were like, you are always the person that, is that person that I would ask for like health or fitness, or you're like this super fit person that I know, like, just kind of go with it and see where it leads. And I was like, yeah, that's so true. And what I found was a lot of females were asking me for health and fitness advice. But for me, there was more to it than it being health and fitness. And I had the skill set to help these people. However, the knowledge and everything that I've learned on my journey in the last 20 years isn't something that I can sit down with someone and help them within half an hour or an hour. So when I was competing in bodybuilding, it was like a really, really tough time physically and mentally. And I would say during that time, I reached my lowest in mental health. I was just almost like this shell of a person because I was overdoing everything. Like everything was an extreme, extreme diet, extreme training, extreme cardio to get to that level. Um, and it allowed me to realize that extremes don't work in the long run. And it's not just like they don't work because you can't maintain that body or that shape or that figure. Um, they don't work from a health point of view. Like you can't push yourself to the extremes and expect everything else in your body, all your systems to work properly and for your mind to work properly. It doesn't work. So that allowed me to sort of go, I guess, on my own sort of personal journey, which I'm still on, but I have learned that it's never just about the diet and the fitness and the training. So for me, I'm like 45 now. I get a lot of women sort of like 40 plus, or even like, I don't even actually want to put a label on it in terms of age, but when women reach that point where they are struggling with their health and their fitness or their body, for me, it's more than giving them a diet and giving them a training program. It's like, as you know, it's so much more that's involved in creating what I would say like optimal health. Because what is health? It's being able to possibly live longer so that you can support your family or play with the kids. It's being able to move better. It's having a better thought process. It's having clarity. It's feeling good inside and out. It's not just about training. And I was finding lots of people were coming up to me with anxiety, like severe anxiety, and women will reach a certain age where their hormones are changing and their bodies therefore are changing. And they might find it harder to lose weight, or they might find it harder to motivate themselves. They might find life harder to get through. But it was a whole sort of pool of things. Um, and it just made me like really want to help people because I've got that knowledge and I've got the connections to be able to help people. Um, and it just came to that stage where I was like, I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to create a program that's all encompassing. So it does help people with their nervous system. It does help people slow down a little bit. It does help people also get fit and healthy. But there are alternative ways to do that. Um, and yeah, so I'm kind of in that space really where I have this pool to help people. And I've created even this all-encompassing hub, I guess, where people can get that support, that help, that knowledge, to be able to create optimal health
Yeah.
and move away from extremes.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved how you explained all of that. And normally I chip in and I join in, but I was just enjoying the story. Thank you for sharing that because I feel like I've known part of your story, obviously, because I've known you for a few years, but it's just always nice, I think, to hear the reasoning why as well. And I feel like you're such a grounded person and you understand the reason why things have happened the way they have and like the actions that you've taken, the accountability. And that's always so beautiful for me to listen to because I think, I mean, to be fair, on the podcast, a lot of the people that come on are accountable and do, are aware
Yeah,
of their own
work.
yeah, things like that. But I think it's always just a really powerful full circle. And I think for the listeners, because this is the whole reason I wanted to start this podcast was more so to show people the journey on how people got to where they are now. Like you've had a really amazing, successful career in everything you've put your mind to. But as you explained, like that came with extremes and that came with like a lot of hours of putting in, doing the work and all of the things. And even when you thought that you were having the balance and all the stuff, it's only when you step out of it, you're like, damn, I wasn't resting at all. I was in fight or flight the whole time. And it's so
Yeah.
funny because I think before we recorded, I was saying that about myself, really, like these layers of healing that I've continued to do for myself. And then this year, the past 9 year, that 2025 was such a like a reboot and a death and rebirth moment for me again. I was like, wow, everything I thought I'd heal and I had to re-heal again. So here we are. And I think it's a beauty of both of our work in that one statement is that you can do something to the best of your ability, and yet there's still more to know, grow, learn, and evolve through. And I think this is what sounds so wonderful about the space that you've created now. And when you told me about it, I was like, yes, absolutely that. Because not only do you have the experience from the business side of things, from the coaching side of things, from the fitness side of things, you're also living that journey. So,
Yeah.
when you told me about it, I was like, well, that sounds like a no-brainer because that's who you are. You're just being yourself. Like, I'm sure if I bumped into you, we would be talking about your fitness, we'd be talking about what you've been doing to regulate, because that's kind of something that in our conversation we kind of talk about. And then maybe what the next step is for you. And then you'd ask me what my next step is for me. And it would be that kind of conversation. That's just who you are. So I think what a gift to the world that you get to just be yourself. And I think, and I think in everything you've done, you've always been yourself, but there's like an element of maybe the separation, whereas now it is you and you're in the being there, which is
Yeah, totally. And I think like with the like you were saying, like even like this year, like you've had a lot of things come up. And I think it's like realizing that when you work on yourself, it's continual. Like it's being consistent all day, every day, working on, being, a better version of yourself. And I with the fitness industry particularly, that's what I'm bringing into my programs is the longevity of it. It's not that you go, right, I'm going to get myself fit and healthy. I'm going to have better thought process and I'm going to do it in 8 weeks. Because and people buy an 8 week program or 10 week or a 12 week, and then they get to the end and they think, I'm cured, or I've got my best body and that's it. But it isn't, it's continual. And that's the important bit, is that it has to be a lifestyle change. It has to be something that you build into your life, whether it is, maybe meditating every morning, or doing yoga once a week, or, even training. Like you build that into your lifestyle. So it isn't a case of you get to a certain point in your life where you don't need to do the work anymore.
exactly that with a cherry on the top. The amount of people that I speak to and they're like, "Oh, I went to therapy, so I'm healed," and I'm like, my love, that does not work. Like you're always going to need to keep growing and evolving. And if you don't grow and evolve, you stay in exactly the same circle. It's like a dog chasing its tail, right? And I think, especially for us women, when it comes to our bodies are going to keep changing and evolving for every stage of our lives, aren't they? So, like whether it's perimenopause, menopause, all of these things our bodies are changing for. And even like when we think about, like for me, energetically, like we have the maiden to the crone energy, like we go through being this like vibrant, full of life and lustful women, to then sometimes coming completely off of that and feeling disconnected. We've lost our mojo, and like all of this I believe is interconnected, like we said, the mind, body and soul thing. So anxiety in itself obviously is something we express through emotions and our mental clarity, but equally I understand that it's also in the gut and the foods we put into our
Yeah,
body. And so
absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing here, right? Is this whole holistic side of things, which I just think is so needed, because already I've been receiving the gym programs coming through and like look like this in 8 weeks or whatever. And it's always funny because I've been obviously going to the gym my whole life as a when I was a
Yeah.
professional dancer, and now it's such a big part of who I am because I love it. But every January, it's heaving in the gym, and then gradually the next few weeks it gets less and less and less and less and less. And I think that, what you just said that's so important is the lifestyle, any part of what it is that you want to adapt and evolve in your life is going to be a continuation. I think that that's almost like what I feel like we need to look at um this evolution of ourselves and like changing our habits and things like that. Who do we want to be, and what can I see myself doing every single day as a byproduct to become that? Because I think
Yeah.
that it's not like just going shopping and picking up a new dress and thinking, right, that's going to make me feel confident. Are you going to wear the dress every day? Is that dress going to be your staple outfit that you wear every single day that makes you feel confident? And that's how we've got to look at it, right? Because it's not just a thing that you can put on and then take off when you feel like it. These changes, it's like we said, part of your everyday nature. So, from what you put in your body and what you're eating, what you're watching, the people you're surrounding yourself with, the thoughts that are coming up dominantly. Do you know how to say to that thought, hey, I don't want to feel that today. We're not going to think about that. Or this is an old thought. You don't need to live here anymore. I'm going to release you. There's so many layers to it, isn't there? And I think
There is.
we're
And
breaking it down in a way that makes it understandable for the
yeah,
person who needs it.
yeah, totally. And like you talk a lot about becoming you, or like, when you're saying about, that's just who you are. But
Mm,
actually, for people that are maybe a little bit lost, or they haven't quite reached that stage yet, like I've done a lot of research on change and how we create change that then does just become who you are. And
mm,
there's like a 6-step process generally that we tend to go through. And I coach on that, or I bring awareness to it, because sometimes when you become aware of something, you are able to create change better, and more sustainable. And this 6-step process is like, first of all, you tend to be in like pre-contemplation, which is when you don't even know you or have any awareness that there's maybe a problem or that you need to change anything. You then move into contemplation, which is where you then start to think, right, I need to make some change, or I have this problem that I want solved. You then move into preparation after you've then obviously contemplated that. And the preparation stage is where you're then saying, how do I make this change? And you're potentially looking for knowledge, information, help, who can support you, who can, guide you through making this change in your life. Then generally, once you've gathered all the data, you step into action and you take that action to make a change, whatever that might be in your life. And then once you're in action, it's a case of maintaining that change, which is what we've just been talking about. It isn't a case of, right, I've made that action, now I've done it. And you have to put a maintenance plan in place for your lifestyle to be able to consistently um, take those steps towards whatever that change might look like for you, creating a better version of you. And then once you've maintained it for a long period of time, it becomes who you are, because it's not an effort for you to do that change anymore. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning. You just get up and you do it because you've had the consistency in your maintenance plan to just be able to do something. And I think that's the important part that we need to get to when we create change, that we want things to just become who you are, so that it's not every single day that you're having to think about what to do. You want to get it in your mindset and your processes and your physiology that it's just part of who you are now. Like, you don't go for that unhealthy choice, for example, because you have consistently, day in, day out, worked on maintaining the healthier choices every day. So at some point, when you do it for a long period of time, it just becomes who you are. And I think we've all been through that journey. Like I definitely have with my health. Like before I started, I'd say 15-ish years ago, like there was a lot that I didn't understand about health and foods. Whereas now it's just stuff that I naturally do and naturally eat, because it's who I am now.
yeah, no, I love that explanation as well because it was so clear. And I think yeah, I guess for me, I'm thinking about my processes and how I work with my clients. And I was thinking about that as you were saying it. And I was like, yeah, because the first step for me is for my person to understand what's happened to them in their life, as to why they've become the way they are, and then they accept it. And then from there, we can release the parts that no longer serve us, the old storylines and the patterns that, yeah, we don't need to carry with us anymore. And then we rebuild. So I
Yeah.
think that that kind of story does feed into these 6 stages of change. Like, as you were speaking, I was like, yeah, that definitely is it. Because every woman that I've spoken to, that I've worked with, even now to this day, they say to me that life's been happening, things have gotten hard, but I lean back into the tools that we learned when we were together. And I was like, that is the greatest gift that I
Yeah.
could give to anyone, is that they
Yeah.
know how to move through the hard things. Because No one is immune from hardship, right? There's going to be stages in our lives at all points where we're, in the real bare bones of ourselves. And I definitely experienced that in 2025 again. And again, it was just this reminder of like, okay, well, I know how to get out of it now. So there's been times in my life where I had no tools and I was just literally surviving and yeah, probably doing patterns that didn't serve me and all of the things and spiraling. And I just, at any point that I've hit rock bottom, I would say in 2025, just quite quickly or quite naturally, I've just found myself out the other side. And I think that that's such a beautiful part of, yeah, this work that we're talking about and these changes that you want to make in your life. It is about this lifelong plan, isn't it? And whether that is like you said with food and choices like that, like as a byproduct of like my childhood and things like that, it manifested in obviously my body as it does, high cortisol level. I've ended up with like a sluggish liver now that I have to detoxify
Okay.
myself manually through castor oil. And
Yeah.
I've done obviously the gut cleanse programs and things like
Yeah.
that. And so I'm working through it now. But however many years later, like 20 so years later, I'm still healing this thing
Yeah.
that was stuck in my body. And so, exactly the same thing. Like, I know what I can and can't eat. That's just not worth the strain for me. Like, I think that some things, obviously, we're not talking about giving up chocolate or anything crazy like that. We're not absurd. But we're talking about, the things that aren't going to make you feel fulfilled in the long run. And there is scientific studies, and I'm sure you could go into this if we needed to, that like eating the fried food and the fizzy drinks, the refined sugar, all of those things have a real detrimental effect on your mental health and well-being. And not only that, sugar and stress are the biggest causes of cancer. So
Yeah.
that in itself, if you're someone that is working back to back, running from job to job, then you go to the gym, and then in the gym you end up picking up a really sugary energy drink, and then you have the energy drink, and then you have the protein bar after, and then you go home and you don't have time to eat, so you get a microwave meal. So you eat
Yeah.
the microwave meal, and then you end up binging some murder documentary on Netflix, and you go to sleep, and you wake up the next day, and then you don't have time to eat breakfast, so you have a coffee in the morning, and it's like this cycle, isn't
Yeah.
it? And
That's
it's
not a
like
good cycle.
it
Yeah.
actually makes me feel anxious talking about it because I'm like, I can't even imagine like living like that. It's
Yeah.
crazy, isn't it?
Like we also are never really taught about the connection of your gut and your mind. And
Mm,
I believe that what you put in is going to come out
totally.
somehow. And I think like I do a lot of work now with making sure that the foods I eat support my gut microbiome
Yeah.
because that is essential. And I went through a journey of also feeling like anxious and just not calm, and everything was a stress to me. And when I started working on my gut health, it absolutely cleared that. I
Mm,
wasn't suffering with the anxiety, I wasn't suffering with the stress all the time, and I was just a lot calmer. So I do a lot of work with working with the right foods that support your gut microbiome and foods that don't support it so we can try and avoid the foods that aren't supporting it and eat more of the foods that do support it so that everything works better in your body. It's not just a case of we're eating to diet.
mm,
Like we're eating the right foods that support your digestive system, that support your mindset, that support you if you want to go to the gym and build muscle. So it's never like a one thing. And I think like that links in very much to like when you were saying you had the tools to support yourself when you were going through something, but it's having the knowledge, isn't it? So when we work with clients, we give them that knowledge so that they can continue. So it's not a case of you work with me for a few weeks and for those weeks you'll feel fine. But actually, when you go away into the real world by yourself, you won't because you won't have the knowledge. Like that for me is I need to give everyone the knowledge that I have and that the people that I bring into my hub can supply them with this amazing knowledge to support them on their journey. So there isn't a 10, 12-week program, off you go into the real world and then you'll fail and then you'll have to come back. It is that you have the knowledge so that when something comes up, when maybe you have eaten some some foods that haven't supported your gut microbiome and your anxiety has gone through the roof, you can recognize that, you're aware of it, you know what stage you are at in creating change in your life, you can make those changes because you have the knowledge, and that creates the ultimate, change, I guess, that you can sustain. And that's important to me. And I know you work that way as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, um, I used to say this, and I still stand by it actually, that knowledge is power. And I
Mhm.
think that like the greatest thing that we can know and understand in us is ourselves, because that's what we're going to take through every stage of our journey. And I think even with like the work that you're doing, I think it's so important because that microbiome knowledge and information has changed my life. Like
Yeah.
knowing that I need to feed my microbiome first thing in the morning has completely changed the way my gut health works. Like, don't get me wrong, I still can have a flare up with IBS and things like that, but it's very rare now because, again, I've got these tools to understand what it is my body actually needs. And I think this is the thing we're talking about, where it's longevity. And actually, I would go as far as saying, I mean, I say it in my own work, but I feel like it's in yours too, is legacy. That's what you're creating, is that this knowledge and understanding that is not only benefiting the woman that is doing it, but also her whole family. Because now she's going to go and teach her children, actually, let's maybe not have the sugary cereal first thing. Let's maybe have something else instead. It's
Yeah.
yeah, these real weaves of change, which I love to see, because I think that this for me is really why, like, women coming together in whatever setting it is, whether it's this conversation or the conversations that women have outside of this, or the hub that you've created, or the spaces that we're creating our own businesses and things like this, it's creating meaningful, lasting change and impact. And I think that every single woman connecting with another is creating these massive ripple effects of this evolution that we've been waiting for, I think, in this time, like right now. The old patriarchal structures and systems haven't supported us as women in our bodies, in the way we see ourselves, in our mental health and well-being. And so it is up to us women to pay the new reality. And I think that is exactly what we're doing, which is just, yeah, so wonderful to hear. So I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit more on how women can find this, what you're creating, and maybe like the first step for her to come on board with you.
Yeah, so I'm my main Instagram account for this program and everything I'm doing here is Emma Seals Fitness. And yeah, if you are female that is wanting to become unstuck with your health, your fitness, and your mindset, then that's what this program is. It's built into like 7 modalities, which I call like my freedom method, because it does include, like, obviously me from a background of bodybuilding. I'm hot on strength training,
Mm,
but only from a point of view of building shape and symmetry, and also from a point of view of supporting the female body, because we should be doing resistance training. Now, I'm not
mm,
saying that everybody needs to lift heavy or, to have a be aiming to become a power lifter or a bodybuilder or anything like that. How I incorporate strength training is for a very specific reason, and that is for shape and symmetry of your body. So it isn't just a case of lifting heavy things for the sake of lifting heavy things. I very much do it to build the shape that people want, but also to support your hormones and your bones, because women should be lifting. So that is part of my program. Um, Pelvic floor as well is
mm,
also a big part of my program, because you want to make sure that that is an area that we are supporting, because I believe that that is, I speak to a lot of women, they get to a certain age and that area is a problem. And you don't want to get to a certain age where that is a problem. So that is something that I build into my programs that you can work on very easily. There's lots of different techniques, so that it doesn't ever get to that point where it is a problem. Obviously, nutrition is a big part of overall well-being. And as we've discussed, it's a lot of like gut health advice in there as well. But there is actually quite a bit on like low tox living as well. So making sure that the foods and not even the foods, but the things that are around us aren't toxic. So, even like for women, we use a lot of creams that actually do have a lot of toxins in. So, keeping your toxic load of your body low helps support everything that works in your body. The more toxins you're putting into your body, the harder your body has to work to get them out. So we want to make sure that everything we're putting into our bodies is nourishing it. So there
Mm.
is a little bit of that as well. Um, Obviously, mindset, um, nervous system regulation, all of that as well. And then what I kind of call opportunities for wellness. And this is, um, there's so many different ways to get fit and healthy. And this is introducing different areas to wellness. So it might mean hormonal health, nervous system regulation, emotional work, yoga, Pilates, sound therapy, breath work. Like all of this is going to be available in my programs for people to get the knowledge on and to help support their overall health. And then the other area that I work on quite closely is metabolism. So it's really important that your metabolism is firing and is working so that all the nutrients, minerals, and everything is being transported through your body and that your body is working properly. So they're kind of like the seven modalities summed up that what my kind of hub and my programs include. And yeah, it's available for people to jump in if you are looking to create lasting change to your health.
No, it sounds amazing, and I think especially about the toxic stuff as well. Like that's so important because I think that we're just not educated on it at all. So that's yeah, it just sounds really, really amazing. And we'll put all the links in the show notes so people listening can come and just click away and find it. I did just realize I hadn't asked you when you said your story about when was the moment that you feel like in your life that you really gave yourself the permission to shine?
Um, I think the start of it was stepping away from corporate
Mm,
because that was quite a hard thing to do because it was a good job.
yeah.
And I think it was at that point where I decided I wasn't going to follow the plan, if you know what I mean. Like you're supposed to get a good job, probably supposed to get married and have kids. Like I don't conform to any of that. But I think that was the point where I was like, this, I can't do this anymore. I'm not happy, and I'm going to create a life that makes me happy. And I think when you give yourself permission, it opens up all of those possibilities. And I'm still on that journey. I wouldn't say I am shining yet. I'm still creating what that looks like.
I think you're shining.
Ah, thank you.
I think that the fact that you give yourself the permission to do life your way automatically means that you're shining in
Mm,
any way because you are leading by example. And I think that's what I really connect with on with you is that you are, yeah, leading by example and you're true to who you are and what you stand for. And I think that's the best example you can be as someone that's a leader of any kind. So yeah, I think you're very shiny, Emma.
thank you. I'll take that.
Well, it's been so lovely. I feel like there's been so much information in here that's so valuable. And I think that when it comes to the hype of the new year and the fitness world and all these things, and everyone wants to change their body and lose all these weight for the new year or whatever it is that people are telling themselves. And I'm not saying this to be condescending. I also used to fall prey to this too. But I think that this episode in particular is going to be really insightful for anyone that's had those thoughts, or if you've got a friend that is going on about New Year, New Me, send her this because she clearly needs to hear it. Because yeah, this is about lifelong change and transformation, which is yes, so needed. A little bit of a closing tradition that I have is that I ask my guests to give me a message from their soul. So I call it a soul to soul message. It could be based on someone that's listening right now that you feel like they need to hear, or maybe something you would have told yourself when you were in that corporate hype or in the burnout cycles, or yeah, whatever it feels like you need to share.
Um, I think something I would have told myself is have the confidence to jump in.
Mm, yeah.
And I think if I'd have heard that from myself then, it would have changed a lot of things.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that's such a powerful statement to make, right? And also I used to always say like 2 feet in, like sometimes
Yeah.
we teeter around the edge, don't we? Or like dip our toe in, but it's like just jump.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I did that for a long, long time, like in corporate. I was, still doing the fitness stuff on the side whilst running the corporate role. And actually, if I had the confidence to just jump in,
Mm.
I could have done it sooner and then been further along sooner, and it would have changed a lot of things, I think.
Yeah, no, but I guess it will happen exactly the way it should. And clearly, now you're exactly where you're supposed to be, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll put, like I said, all of Emma's details on the description so you can find her and the information about the hub and everything like that there. But yeah, thank you so much, Emma. It's been a really lovely conversation.
Yeah, it has. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please do like, follow, and share with a woman that you know would really truly benefit from listening to these words. And as always, if you have a guest in mind that you would love to be featured on the show, let me know. And I love hearing your feedback. So feel free to drop me a DM, whether that's just to have a conversation or to let me know that you enjoyed the episode. Now, I'm really excited to share with you that on the 22nd of January, my special numbers are 22, so it had to be that day, I'm hosting the first event that I've done in a very long time, and it's such an intimate space. It's a room full of women who refuse to abandon themselves ever again. A room where power isn't performed, it's reclaimed. The event is She Rises, the experience. 22nd of January in Kingston, 11 till 4:30 p.m, just 15 spaces. So if you want one of them, click the link in the description and grab yours there. The early bird is still on until the 1st of January. Can't wait to see you there.